This meeting is being recorded.
Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my climbing coach and guide, Ben Coryell. Say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, how you doing? It's a pleasure to be here, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, blast. I'm so excited about today having Ben here because we have, in a week from now, we're going to be climbing Devil's Tower. And Ben is also someone who helped me with climbing the 3 Flatirons a year back in the middle of winter and nice icy temperatures in the dark. It was a good time, a great adventure. And Ben's someone that I really respect in this this community of the climbing community and the outdoor adventure, going about it in an intelligent way. When you got someone who's a little bit of a numbskull like myself, who's like, let's just go for it, figure out how we do it. And at least, Ben nods his head and says, hey, this is doable. We can do this. And we need to think about these critical things here for us to have success. So not just from a safety perspective, but also from, you come from a very, very strong background, which makes me feel very safe and also curious to explore and expand beyond what my initial intrigue and engagement with these activities is. You actually get me to seek to get so much more from these adventures. So I love for you to kind of share what you're up to these days in the world, Ben. And then I like to travel back in time to, what kind of kid were you like? Were you always this adventurous and explorative and so calm and grounded? How do we arrive here, and what kind of principles maybe you have in mind from these life experiences that you've had, and me sharing that with our audience. So if you guys have a pen and pad of paper, take some notes here, because pressure's on Ben here. He's going to spit some wisdom that's going to be pretty profound. So
well, yeah, those are great questions. And I guess let's start with where I'm at now. So I'm Ben. I own Golden Mountain Guides. We do a lot of rock climbing, ice climbing, big mountain adventures for every walk of life, everywhere from beginners to intermediate to advanced climbers. We kind of cater a trip based on you and your goal and what you all want to get out of the day. Currently I have a 2.5-year-old, so he takes up a lot of my time recently. And I actually have another kid on the way here. Super excited. It'll be a boy household. So I'll have 2 little boys. Hopefully they're climbers someday, and when I'm old and decrepit, they can haul me up something fun and keep sharing the adventure with me and just experiencing the outdoors in a cool and fun way. So history of me, I was not a climbing guide, and I never pictured myself as a climbing guide, a mountain guide by any stretch. Coming out of college, I was kind of told, hey, I need to get the the standard 9-to-5 job, and you have to be able to provide, and it doesn't matter if you're happy and miserable, you have to make money. So I was kind of indoctrinated into that theory, that philosophy, and it didn't work for me. I worked in the oil field for a long time, and I worked the standard 9-to-5 jobs, and it just wasn't. It wasn't fun. I didn't get to go outside. I didn't get to spend quality time with the people that I truly loved and cared about. So I quit my job and moved out to Yosemite Valley and lived in my car in a tent for almost a year. Life-changing experience. It was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. I remember my parents at the time, they thought I was absolutely nuts. Why would anybody leave from a nice job and a comfortable house and go choose to live in the back of their Subaru? But I did it. I had a great time. I ate oatmeal for a year straight, and it was cheap. And we used to go steal food off of people's trays in the Awani Lodge.
We're not condoning that. We're not condoning that behavior.
Yeah,
and we're not promoting oatmeal, for Quaker.
But yeah, it kind of transformed what I thought of climbing and what I thought of the outdoors, and just how important that truly is in today's society, and how it kind of gets left behind. We're told that the outdoors are fun, but we never really get to experience them. And living in my car in Yosemite, I really developed a close connection with it, and I wanted to share that with other people. So thinking back to the very first time I climbed, it was a terrible experience. I absolutely didn't like it. I hated it. I walked away from it thinking I'm never going to do this again. And it's funny now, almost 20 some years later, that this is what I've chosen to do. Person I went with, in hindsight, had no idea what they were doing. And it was just scary, not fun. So when I started guiding, I figured I don't want anybody's experience to be this way. I want them to see the outdoors and the mountains and climbing the way that I know and love. And that's kind of been the driving philosophy behind everything I've done, business-wise, personally climbing-wise. And then it also kind of dictates my family life and how we choose to spend our time together outside.
Almost you've adopted the philosophy that it's actually not so comfortable on the couch. It's actually more comfortable out here in the wild, being adventuresome, being playful, being explorative, and obviously having. So you had to have a harsh lesson with that at first, that there needs to be some sensibilities with this. So that's probably obviously directed you towards a lot of the trainings that you've gone through and
Totally, yeah.
So.
I think that the outdoors can teach us a lot. I think we have to be willing to kind of stick our neck out a little bit and be uncomfortable for an hour or a half an hour, Glenn.
I had a half hour this last Sunday getting spooked.
We have to be a little bit out of our comfort zone in order for that kind of growth to happen, and to really appreciate things that we have and the direction and choices that we want to live our life by.
Yeah, so maybe share. I know you've kind of been climbing all over the world. You just got back from Alaska. You kind of do all kinds of adventures. You follow the weather with ice climbing, and you're very versatile. But maybe share some of the experiences that you've been to. Some pretty exotic places that you can only get so far from the parking lot. When you park at one of these places to go explore nature that people usually go. I always crack up about this time I grew up in the Bay Area, and I was at Muir Woods, and I remember going out for a hike in Muir Woods, and there was just this loud rumble of all the buses that showed up, and then all the tourists came in, and they only went about 15 feet into the park, and then everyone turned around and went back to the buses.
Don't they say 95% of people that visit a national park don't travel more than 5 minutes from a paved trailhead?
Yeah,
it's something like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
And what is beyond the paved trailhead? Because that's where we're most alive. Share a little bit about your experience of what lies beyond that for folks.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking on that recently, and why we choose to go kind of beyond the trailhead. And I've kind of landed on one word, and I think it's just connection. It's connection to the people you choose to spend that time with. It's connection to the frogs that you get to hear chirping early in the morning. It's connection to wild places that don't normally get to visit, coming from a more civilized, Denver, Chicago, LA kind of based mentality. So I think connection is the big one there. You can learn a lot about yourself and get to see people at their absolute best and their absolute worst as they start to get a little bit uncomfortable. But again, I think that's something that we all need in our lives.
I love the aspect of just being seen and your uncomfortableness. I think there are moments, in our climbs where it's like the self-doubt comes out, or I've been challenged with understanding certain mechanics of certain moves, and it's like, I'm sure it's probably like the juicy part for you. You get to watch someone really struggle, really hit that wall mentally, emotionally, everything, the flush.
Seeing that light bulb go off is one of the most gratifying things.
Yeah. And you're like, I figured it out. I solved this unsolvable puzzle, or I figured out how to breathe again and calm myself and self-soothe myself and guide myself and trust myself. Have that kind of have that return.
I think that those lessons can be taken not just from climbing, but they can be applied to every aspect of our life. Whether it's kids, children, or relationships or business. We all face challenges, and being able to calm yourself, like you said, and overcome those, it's super important.
Well, would you be open to sharing maybe one of your exotic climbing adventures that you've been on, and maybe something that revealed, over months, even years, whatever, after that climb, lessons learned from that you've taken into your life, and you can see how those extreme conditions, really being out in the wild with yourself, really, there's the accomplishment of accomplishing that feat, but there's so much more that comes from these experiences. Like you and I, we've talked about, I'm going to climb Devil's Tower and I'm going to stand at the top. I see it, I visualize it. It's going to be a challenge. I'm going to go through, like going through a marathon. I'm going to go through a variety of emotions and different landscapes. And I'm going to celebrate the accomplishment. And I'm going to come down off that mountain, kind of like I always share with folks that when you climb a mountain, it's like Everest. Like, you can't stay on the top. You die on the top. You got to go back into life. You got to climb down. You got to descend, and then you got to start your next climb or the next mountain. You and I talked about, all right, we're done with this. Let's look at the Grand Tetons next and what we got to plan for that. Like the seeds planted, and it's not. For me, this adventure is not so much about climbing to the top of Devil's Tower as to, I'm going to put forth this effort, this intention and commitment and drive and aspiration. And I'm also going to listen and respect nature and what's also happening. And then I'm going to come off this mountain a very different person that's going to continue to be revealed to me, these mysterious things that, so it's not just the outcome of the accomplishment, but it's the unknown that I don't, I'm excited about the parts of me that are going to be revealed and come forth from this experience that I'm just can't put my thumb on right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you could share about how that's been, maybe you've experienced something similar or that truth.
Yeah, I think that exploring the mountains, we don't really know what it's like, and we always have that feeling of the unknown until we're actually up there doing it. And then even as we start to plan other trips and other adventures, it's still all unknown. You finish a big climb and you're miserable and cold up there, and it's just mentally taxing. You're physically drained and exhausted. But the next steps, I think, are also an unknown until you kind of come about this transformation in this journey. So I think a big one, many years ago, I took a friend on Devil's Tower, and
I don't want to hear this story. Let's tell another story.
all right, I got another one for you.
No, that's good. Let's just roll with it.
And it
all right.
was Thanksgiving Day. It was cold. It was, in hindsight, it was kind of a poor decision on our part. But as a younger climber, you feel pretty gung ho. You have to get these things done. But I just remember rappelling down this thing in the dark after it took us 12 plus hours to climb it. And we got rope stuck coming down one of the rappels and had to reclimb about 100 feet back up, really just hard and scary terrain by headlight. And I remember the transformation that happened after that as, I started training a little bit more. I started really respecting where I was at and kind of cherishing the journey a little bit more and trying to think about things from a more logical standpoint, maybe. Where was I most at risk? Why did I make this decision? Because I wanted to go back out and explore, but I didn't want things like that to happen again. Yeah. So I think just learning from those experiences and learning from that unknown that you feel going into it is uncomfortable, but I think necessary, especially as a climber.
I'm so excited about our themed redemption climb for Ben this next week here. So you had this this preparation and how do I prevent things from happening, and then can you really prevent things from happening?
No, that's the thing. The mountains kind of have their own way, and they're pretty ambivalent towards us as people. They don't care whether we're exploring them or not. things happen, rocks fall, ropes get stuck, it's
Equipment
kind of
fails.
the inevitability of choosing the medium in which we're exploring.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we were up on the third flight and finishing up at the end of the day, and I was like, the wind was just howling. It was free. The temperature dropped as soon as it got dark. And gosh, I even remember a part of the adventure where you were far enough ahead that I could have an out of body conversation with myself out loud for motivation. It was one of those conversations that wasn't pretty. It was like, why did you have to fricking do this? Like, here you go again, having to do another challenge, pushing yourself, testing your mettle, I think I was talking about my childhood with myself. It was all out loud at the top of my lungs in this loud windstorm. And I arrived to you after getting all the gear and stuff gathered. I got to you and you're in this little crevice here and you're laughing hysterically. You're like, I heard everything you said. and it's like, you just don't know what's going to be evoked within you emotionally, spiritually, what rigors your body is going to be put under. Like you said, no, it's too hot or it's too cold, or there's going to be some aspects that, like I said, we can't plan for it. We're just going to have to, like, okay, how do we adjust and acclimate and work with that and make smart decisions around that when those situations come up. So.
Yeah, it's just like everything in life, it's a challenge. And I think part of being human is being able to overcome that challenge in a rational and, kind of logically safe way, especially in climbing.
Yeah. So here we are on our couches in our comfort zone in the world, and we get to, use all of our skills to really try to navigate as safely and as intelligently as possible in an environment that's very familiar on a regular basis for the most part. And then we go out into nature and we go do these kind of experiences that really stretch us. They really get us to have a desire to accomplish something. At the same time, there's just a lot of the how to, we were talking earlier about this, like all you can really do is the next step, the next foot placement, that's going to reveal to you maybe the next hand placement. And I had this experience, this last weekend on Sunday where I panicked, I froze, and I was in my head trying to have more of the how to defined for me. And because I didn't have that, I got spun out in my head versus just, the longer I stayed where I was at, the more frozen I was getting, just like all of us have experienced when we've been, cliff jumping. You're standing on a cliff and to jump into the lake and your friends are like, jump. And the longer you stand there, the more frozen you get. Yeah. And so I'm just, when you think about some of the other, places you've been and you've gone to some pretty epic places, where you have, you don't know all the holds and all the, the whole entire territory. A big part of it is, I'm going to probably get myself into a couple situations today, that I'm going to have to figure out, especially when you're guiding and now you got a client that's maybe not behaving the way you're anticipating them to behave. They do something off. I mean, you probably had those experiences where a client, you're like, go right. And like, somehow they freaking went left.
It's amazing how many people don't know right from left, even as an adult.
So how have you had it, like, maybe share some more experiences that you've had and, some of the things you've learned, the actual like things you've like taken from these experiences and maybe how they've, been applied in your regular everyday back in the cozy life.
Yeah, I think, for me, the priority with exploring the mountains is coming home at the end of the day. Going to the top is optional, but coming home is kind of a mandatory thing. That's just something that has to happen. And it's been really pronounced over the last number of years as I've taken more people into more dangerous and hazardous areas of the mountains where I'm solely responsible for their lives, And I think the big thing is just a skill set, having this well-rounded toolbox full of all kinds of different tools that I can use to fight that inevitable challenge that happens. The rope gets stuck, or Glenn has a breakdown on the last Summit Ridge pitch, and how do I mentally bring him back so that we can finish this cool objective that he's super psyched on. So just having that really well-rounded experience. And I think the hard thing to get to with that is getting all of that experience, because it takes years and years in the mountains to develop those techniques and skills, and how to communicate with people on a more deep and intimate level when they are scared out of their mind, or where they're really cold and they're just not thinking the right way. So I think that the big thing is skill set and training, and for me, a lot of professional development and training, so that I feel like I can handle any situation that comes about.
Yeah. How many years have you been climbing yourself, and then before you got into like professional, and then maybe also share a little bit about your some of the certifications and trainings that you've done, because I know you have that, and that's why when I'm in a difficult situation, I know this calm, grounded air is going to come across, where you're going to pierce through the veil of all the chaos or distortion, and able to say, hey, simply do this thing right now. And I can listen and hear that because I've got a guide who's got the experience and the training, and has been even in situations that, like, more extreme himself, that, he knows what he needed to hear, what he needed to do, the little subtle nuances. So maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've been climbing, gosh, almost 20 years personally. And then I've been guiding just about 10 of those years now. I kind of started off just as a joke. I didn't really like climbing, and then it's kind of just transformed into my lifestyle. Guiding isn't just a career; it's a lifestyle in the mountains of exploration. I've done a lot of professional trainings through the American Mountain Guides Association, where you learn techniques on self-rescue, how to rescue two people off of a cliff 1,000 feet tall, and how to get both people down safely when one of them's injured and one of them is just a little shaken up. So I've undergone a lot of trainings through that, everything from rock training to ice and bigger alpine training as well. And then on top of that, I guess I learned really quick that as a younger guide, if I look panicked and I look scared as a guide, the people that are choosing to climb with me are going to be scared. They're going to be on edge. So you just kind of learn how to provide information in a more neutral way. I don't quite know how to say that.
Well, you say it in a very neutral way, and then you also add in little flavors in there of like, yeah, here, see where we're climbing right here, we're rappelling off. Someone died here last week, fell from this, the rope was too short or something.
Well, so I think it's important for people to continuously know that, while we're out in the mountains, the mountains are a dangerous place. There's no such thing as safety in the mountains. Again, we're pretty small, and the mountains don't really care about us, despite how much we care about them.
I think even the day before one of our big climbs with the Flatirons, I think the day before, you said you were the first on the scene. Someone had fallen to their death or something.
Yeah. I had rescued a 73-year-old who had fallen off of a cliff. He had slipped and was hiking with his family and grandson. And it doesn't matter if you're just hiking or climbing. So again, I think having that training and that mentality of, oh man, the mountains are kind of a dangerous place. I should really respect them. I think that can go a long way, both as a climber, but then also, as a business owner. Employees demand a lot of respect because they build a business for you. So I think learning how to kind of navigate that as a climbing guide has really helped where I'm at and where I plan to go as a business owner as well.
Yeah. And I think even just not just for the business owner, but I think all of us should in some shape or form learn how to respect nature, the mountains. If we go hiking or trail riding or mountain biking, like shit happens. And you could be in a position after dark, getting home from with a bike that you blew out the tire rim, and you've got 5 miles of hiking back in the wilderness. Not
Yeah,
don't have enough food.
I've been 10 miles back in the backcountry on skis, and I didn't used to pack a repair kit, and my ski binding broke, and you end up spending a really cold, miserable night inside your down puppy because you can't get back to the car because the snow's too deep and it's just going to take forever. So I think we respect nature, but I don't think a lot of us truly understand that until, again, we've kind of put ourselves out there.
And now your wife's also was a climber, or still is. And so this is your lifestyle. And I think you probably heard this question before and contemplated it, but it's like, what's the likelihood of you dying doing your lifestyle, where you spend your time, and your passion, I'm curious about this hard question, that's that, and I think our audience is too. It's just, this is what you're doing. This is your joy, your bliss, your challenge, your edge. This is where you thrive and have had many survival moments already.
But also very close moments on the flip side of that coin.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I contemplate, especially now that my family's getting bigger. Because, like I said, coming home at the end of the day is the most important part. There's people relying on me, my employees, my kid, my soon-to-be other kid, my wife, my family. So coming home is kind of the most important goal. Statistically speaking, with the amount of days I'm in the mountains, Glenn, there's a chance that something's going to happen. Just the other day, I was ice climbing for a personal day in Vail and had a very close encounter with a rock that fell out of a roof and almost hit me and my partner in the head. So I think the longer you explore the mountains, you kind of figure out this line to walk. We don't explore the mountains to die in them. We explore the mountains to truly live and learn about ourselves. And you feel most alive when you're kind of walking that line right between the white and the black zone. We're on the gray line the entire time, and that's where you feel most alive, and you grow the most and you learn the most. But also at the same time, that's where you are scared the most.
Yeah. So you believe you've tied from a lot of your maybe earlier naive or just inexperienced, you've learned all these things that you can't really go at life complete savage. You've got to
exactly
tame that down.
Yeah, the older I've gotten, as a younger climber, I used to leave. I would never leave a piece of gear behind. It didn't matter how dangerous it was to get it back. I was gonna get it. And nowadays, if it means me getting down safe and secure back to the car, then I'll leave everything that I need to leave to get down, because the amount of gear is worth a human life. It's not worth it. But you don't learn that until you've been exploring a long time.
I'm sure when you're younger, you're like, oh man, I just found somebody else's gear up here. I'm gonna grab that. There's $80. There's $100 of gear there.
Yeah, but yeah, nowadays, it's coming home is the important part.
Coming home is the most important part. Yeah, so it's like, I guess I've heard this, through a variety of different avenues, but that the meaning of life is to live, is to really just to live life fully. You got this one life to live it to the fullest, and in that, it's climbing mountains and coming back down, and then going back, hit pause and reset, and then climbing again, and to keep climbing. I think if we don't do that in life, there's a part of us dying inside, and you will then be treating symptoms with medications if you are not going after life, to the fullest, intelligently. But you're going to feel most alive when you're living, when you're dreaming, when you're aspiring, when you're listening to what wants to move through you and move you out into the world with, versus.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have that activity, whether it's climbing or mountain biking or skiing or running, where you can shut your brain off and all you think about is what's going to happen next, the next move, the next mile, the next turn on a mountain bike. And I think being able to turn that off and that inner dialogue off in your head of, hey, how am I going to pay this next bill? What am I going to do for food next week? How am I going to pay for my car? I think that's part of life that that sometimes we need to turn that off in order to be a better human and or in order to connect with other people again on that more deep and intimate level.
Yeah, I mean, how can we do that if this thing's running the show?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm with you, but I'm really in my head spinning data, and
Yeah, so I'm not really with you then.
I'm not really with you. I'm kind of with you. I got one foot in and I got one foot out here, and like I wonder why someone or myself, we can't feel each other, feel that connection that's always there, but I'm parceling my energy to be here processing stuff. So how can we be in the unfold? That's what I love about the climbing experience. Is like I'm in the moment unfolding right now. Like, and where I got into trouble the other day was I got in my head in story, started to like handle the logistics of my death.
Yeah, it's I think that's why most people do it, because they can turn that extra noise off and really just focus on themselves and the people that they've chosen to spend the quality time in the outdoors with.
Well, I hear that's what you're offering folks who want to come out to Golden Mountain Guides and have an experience as an opportunity to. I tell you what, you go climb with Ben, you will only be able to be present with the activity you're engaging with and the conversation that's unfolding. It's just a really beautiful space that you create for people, a container for people to safely go and escape the doldrums, the routine that we hard press as like the have to and must and need to have our lives function and function well. But if you want to get out of surviving and get into thriving and feeling alive, how would they get a hold of you? What would be the best way to reach out to you and connect? And I always would say, how can they stalk you from afar for a moment, and then reach out and connect to you?
Yeah, I mean, everything's so connected now. Instagram, Facebook, yada, yada. I still think probably email is best.
Okay.
You can go to the website, goldenmountainguides.com.
goldenmountainguides.com. Okay.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the trips that we offer. We also offer a lot of trips that aren't on there as well, very kind of personalized and private trips. And part of the cool thing about being a certified guide, Glenn, is that I can work on other people's permits too. So if somebody wants to climb the Grand Teton, like you and I do, I can work under somebody else's permit to kind of facilitate that and make this dream happen. But yeah, email.
Could you list off of some of the exotic places too, like that you've gone to and been to, and even like local wise here, but just to give a little bit of an idea, because people don't understand that there's a lot to see and explore.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's world-class climbing in Canada, Washington State, California, Alaska has some of the best ice climbing in the country. Hands down, hundreds of meters of just steep, fun ice. Las Vegas, most people don't realize that one of the coolest spots in Las Vegas is 15 minutes west. It's also home of some of the best rock climbing in the country. Some of the most remote rock climbing in the country too. And then, even stuff all the way back to the East Coast, ice climbing back near North Conway, New Hampshire, is super fun and just a life-changing experience. I've actually been in talks with a gentleman. It would be an unpaid trip, but just to go and climb the north face of the Eiger with him. So
that's for all you Clint Eastwood fans that like the Eiger Sanction movie.
yeah, exactly.
You've been climbing out of the country as well too. You've been climbing in some pretty incredible places too.
I have, yeah, and I think my favorite still is probably Colorado, just because the amount of variety that you get. You can ski, you can climb, you can ice climb, and you can ski all the way until June, July. So having those seasons of climbing is important.
Yeah, so there's a lot of trips that you can plan all year round to really support clientele and their unique creative ideas or interests. So there's a lot of branching out of what people might suspect or the obvious routes to go. There's actually a lot of different directions that you can take people. So based on what their desires are.
Oh yeah, the mountains are for exploration, and we wanna see you be your best in the mountains and see you achieve something that you didn't necessarily think was possible.
So what's your email address if they want to reach out to you? Because you're often out on treks, might be 3 or 4 or 5 day adventures, and so
Yeah, yeah. My email is ben@goldenmountainguides.com. Just like it sounds, all spelled out. You can always call the office phone number too, and somebody will answer, and I'll get the message and call you back.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you, Ben, for being on this conversation here, and for folks listening in, hopefully got inspired, and just reach out to Ben, have a conversation. He might just get you lit up on a project that you're thinking about and you don't know where to begin. He might be able to just put the dots together and show you it's doesn't need to be postponed. It could happen sooner than you think, and get you out feeling alive right away. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Glenn. It's been a pleasure here, and I'm super psyched to climb Devil's Tower with you next week.
Me too. Yeah. Like I said, we'll do our redemption climb. Well, hopefully we'll have some good video. Hopefully no night footage.
Yeah, none of that this time.
Yeah, super excited. It's going to be an adventure, and yeah, putting in work, getting ready for that. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care.
See ya.